Welcome to the College of Pharmacy podcast. I'm your host, Margaret Gregory, and today, Kendall Kerr, class of 2025, joins me to talk about her recent experience at the national drug chain store's RxIMPACT in Washington, D.C., an opportunity to demonstrate the significance of the profession of pharmacy having a say in policy development. Kendall, thank you for being with me today. Before we talk about your time in Washington, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you became interested in pharmacy as your chosen career.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here to talk about something I'm very passionate about. I'm originally from the North, and I knew I wanted to come south for school, so South Carolina was definitely a hot spot when I was looking into universities. And coming to the college, I toured it and instantly fell in love. I did not think I wanted to do pharmacy initially, but I decided to use this as a starting point as a freshman, and I've never doubted my decision, never wanted to change, and I'm very honored to be a part of the College of Pharmacy now as a P3.
So what is it about pharmacy that intrigues you?
Initially, it was the patient care aspect. That's why I initially wanted to get into healthcare in general, and then as I've matriculated through the curriculum, I have found more of a love for the profession than I thought I would. Originally, it was very patient-centered, and I thought that as a pharmacist, that could be my job to help patients. But now I realize I want to be more focused on the profession, and so that I can support the profession, and in turn, those professionals can support their patients, and I can have more of an indirect impact on so many lives.
Let's talk a little bit about how you were selected to take part in RxIMPACT Day.
Yeah, so I have gotten very involved in pharmacy legislation and advocating for the profession in different political discussions surrounding pharmacy. And I started getting involved in that as a P2 through our state pharmacy association, SCPHA, or the South Carolina Pharmacy Association. And Dean Cutler noticed that, and he saw that that was something I was passionate about. So this opportunity arose for each of the deans across the nation to send one student to DC to represent their college and their state. And so he reached out to me personally and invited me to apply for this. And I'm very grateful he thought of me and was very honored, because I think there are a lot of other qualified students within this program that are doing similar things for the profession of pharmacy. But I was very honored he chose me and excited to represent the college in DC.
So let's talk about the day itself, the time that you spent in Washington. Walk us through what you experienced while you were there.
So the first day I had a Rx Academy. So that was for all the students that was there to represent their respective colleges and institutions. We had about a 4-hour boot camp, they called it, where we learned how to present your story to Congress, how to advocate, different ways to appeal to different representatives and senators, and overall the confidence needed to go on Capitol Hill, which I think can be intimidating, especially for students thinking that they're not qualified to speak on this. But I try to remind myself that I and others are the expert on this subject matter. You know, even as a student, I have more experience behind the counter of a pharmacy than most of Congress has in their lifetime or will have in their lifetime. So just reminding ourselves that we are qualified to speak on this, we are the experts, and we have the stories to share. And then that night, we were able to have a dinner to kind of celebrate everything that this association, NACDS, we call it, has been doing on Capitol Hill in a fight for a lot of legislation affecting the pharmacy practice. And so that fired us up. So we were ready to go in the morning. And 8 a.m. we started right on the steps of Capitol Hill. And we had a few congressmen come and join us and do a press conference. I was in the background with a sign that was advocating for what we were there to talk about that day. And the congressmen that were there were advocates of this bill. So they weren't pharmacists themselves, but they have found how impactful these pieces of legislation are in Congress, and they're bipartisan. So that was an impactful way to start the day, and to hear that we do have allies in Congress. It can be intimidating walking up those steps and going in thinking you're so inferior, but to know that there are people in Congress that this is their passion too, that this is their fight, made me feel more comfortable. And then we started the meetings. So there were hundreds of us, students, pharmacists, CEOs, vice presidents. All of us split up into our respective meetings based on what state we were from. So I was able to meet with different legislative staffers from 4 different offices of South Carolina congressmen and have impactful conversations about PBM reform, which is a big topic right now, and then provider status, which has been a fight for the profession for many years now. So it was a quick 2 days in DC, but definitely left an impact on myself, and I hope the members that I spoke to.
Talk a little bit about how you think being part of this RxIMPACT Day and too the work that you've done related to policy development through the Pharmacy Association or the organizations here on campus and what you've learned. How do you think that's going to help you down the road?
The experiences that I've had have exposed me to a whole different side of the nation, honestly, than I expected going in. Little by little, over the past 2 years, I've been able to gather these experiences, whether it's been going to Capitol Hill or going to the State House here in South Carolina, or sitting in on meetings about legislative issues, or being a part of legislative committees with the state association. These little choices that I've made over the past 2 years, looking back now, have really shaped me into the advocate that I strive to be. And I think that it just showed me that as a student, even if you're doing little things, they can add up to big things and really ignite a fire within you to be an advocate for the betterment of the practice. And so I think that these experiences have shown me that I do have a voice as a student, that students do have voices, that anyone can be an advocate, that anyone should be an advocate, and building that confidence as a student, I believe will be impactful in my career as a pharmacist, as I'll already have these experiences to pull on when I head into my career.
And you have some interesting rotations coming up. Some of your electives will focus around policy development.
Yes, correct. I will be with Brian Clark, the CEO of SCPHA, in June, and together we will be doing various things within the association focused on member engagement, on conference development, as we will be having our annual convention that month, and then just bettering the practice within the state of South Carolina. I know the association has been very involved in a lot of different bills that have been brought to the level of the state, and this is a pivotal year for our nation. It is an election year, and a lot of bills are trying to squeeze through before the cycle ends. And so it's exciting to be a part of something that is fast moving, and things do move faster at the state level. I have found federally it can be a little slower and a little bit more tedious, but at the state level, it's a lot easier to see change happen. So that's what I'll be doing in June. And then in November, I will be heading to DC, and I will be doing a rotation with the American Pharmacist Association, or APHA, which is an organization that I have had the honor of being the chapter president of here at USC, and it has become my passion, my love. Both SCPHA and APHA are my 2 association involvements that I have fully embraced and just grown to love and really developed as an individual, personally and professionally within. And this will be focused on association management, working alongside the CEO of the American Pharmacist Association, and again, advocating for the profession, supporting the members, focus on resources internally so that externally we present a unified front, I think, to the nation and the profession is a big goal of APHA. So I've benefited for years now externally from APHA, so I'm thrilled to be able to help with the internal operations so that I can be a part of an organization that's been so impactful to my time as a student.
Speaking of students, what advice do you have for those who will come after you about taking that step and being a voice and learning to use their voice in relation to policy?
As I mentioned earlier, anyone can be an advocate and everyone should be an advocate. What we advocate for as students could very well be the laws that we practice under upon graduation. I think as students, we feel that we don't have a voice and we're told what to do. We have to check all the boxes, and that is a crucial part of these 4 years within the universities that we attend. However, we do have a voice and we can make change. And I think this realization has instilled in me such a motivation to do well here didactically and on rotations, because I know that things that I experience I can use to enact change at a higher level. And so to students, I would say join associations, get out what you put in, put yourself out there, attend things. Even if you don't speak the first time, challenge yourself to make one connection. and then come back and challenge yourself to meet 2 people. And then your third time, maybe challenge yourself to go meet the CEO or the president. I think these little steps that are intentional can really lead to an impactful time as a student and just capitalizing on those 4 years. Because as a P3 now, I realize that these years go by very fast. In the depths of finals week every semester, I don't believe them, and I think it is so slow. But I realize looking back that really did go by fast, and it shaped me into who I am today. And so to students, again, get involved, be an advocate, and again, you are the expert on the subject matter. When I went to Capitol Hill for RxIMPACT Day, I was the only student pharmacist from South Carolina sitting in that room. So I had a unique perspective. I was able to talk to Congress about what's happening within their schools. A lot of them were alumni of the University of South Carolina. So telling them this is what our program looks like. This is what our curriculum looks like. This is what we've had to incorporate into our curriculum because of the PBM and their monopoly on certain parts of the profession. We have to adjust our curriculum a little bit and learn about that because that's what our students will be facing. And I think telling them that was impactful because they didn't realize what it's like at the student level from their alma mater. So I think that showed me that I had a unique angle and perspective that no one else in the room could bring. And for that, they listened and they cared and they showed interest. So again, encouraging students, get involved, be an advocate, and know that your story is impactful. No one else has your story. So you're going to bring something unique that no one else has. Whether you realize that or not, you will. And I've seen that happen for years now from myself and also other students and pharmacists that I meet with regarding these topics.
Kendall, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. We're excited for the journey that you're about to embark on with your rotations and then getting into the profession. But thank you for sharing your voice and making an impact for not only your fellow students, but for the College of Pharmacy as well, and for the profession of pharmacy.
Thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor to talk about this. As you can tell, I'm very passionate, and I love this profession. I love this College of Pharmacy. I love the people that practice within pharmacy, and I'm just honored to be able to advocate for them and the betterment of the practice.
You've been listening to the University of South Carolina College of Pharmacy podcast with our special guest today, P3 student Kendall Kerr. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again next time.